Grandma, Mom's not moving. What should we do? A late-night call from my granddaughter woke me from my sleep. When I asked the crying and distraught child, "What happened to your dad?" I received an unexpected answer. "He kicked Mom's stomach, and then he went somewhere." I rushed to my granddaughter's home to find a shocking sight. My daughter had collapsed and was unconscious. After an emergency trip to the hospital, I was told an unbelievable story. How could he do this to my precious daughter? I won't forgive him. At that moment, I decided to take revenge on my son-in-law. I am Emily. I am 65 years old and recently retired from the company I had worked at for many years. My husband passed away a few years ago and I now live alone. My only daughter's name is Catherine. She works at a bank. 7 years ago, she married Tom, who works for the government, and they have a lovely daughter, Karen, who is now 5 years old. My son-in-law, Tom, is gentle and trustworthy, so I felt safe leaving my daughter and granddaughter in his care. They live about 30 minutes away by car, and they often visit with Karen, providing us with many enjoyable moments. One day, as Catherine and Karen visited, we sipped tea and watched Karen play. I had a question for Catherine. Has Tom changed his department at work recently? Yes, he moved to the Future Division of Health and Welfare Center last month. Is that related to child rearing support? It seems so, but he's been very busy and works late every night. I used to think working for the government lets you leave on time, but it seems that's not the case anymore. Considering Tom's gentle nature, I thought welfare and child rearing support work might suit him perfectly. I see. It must be tough with all the overtime. I know you're busy too, but please support Tom. If you need help with daycare pickups, I can assist. Just let me know. Catherine smiled and said, "Thank you," and left with Karen. After that conversation, Catherine rarely visited, and the only message I received was, "Sorry, I've been too busy to stop by." I didn't want to interfere too much in their lives. As long as they were happy, that was enough for me. But one day, while out shopping, I coincidentally saw Tom. He was in a suit, getting into a government car with a young woman seated next to him. Catherine had mentioned that Tom sometimes went out for work, so I assumed he was on duty. I just silently cheered him on and didn't think much of it. About a month later, on a Sunday, I had an errand near Catherine's home, so I thought I'd stop by, but no matter how long I waited, there was no response to my message. Feeling uneasy, I decided to visit without waiting for a reply. I rang the doorbell, and Catherine's voice came through immediately. "Mom, why are you here all of a sudden?" She seemed surprised that I had reached out. I explained that I was in the area and thought I'd visit. Catherine went silent. Then I heard Tom's voice.
"Emily, could you wait a moment? The place is a bit messy."
"Oh, Tom, I'm sorry for the sudden visit."
"It's okay. We'd be happy if you saw Karen too."
I waited at the entrance for a while, and after about 5 minutes, the front door opened. Seeing Catherine, I was at a loss for words. Compared to when I saw her 3 months ago, she had lost a lot of weight and looked like a completely different person. "Catherine, what happened? You've lost so much weight." "I just thought I'd lose some weight. I was on a diet." However, I felt uneasy. At that moment, Tom came with a smile, holding slippers. "Thank you, Tom." As I entered the living room, Karen ran up excitedly. "Grandma, you came!" I naturally smiled, seeing my granddaughter after so long. Karen took my hand and suggested we play pretend. While participating, I enjoyed some casual conversation with Catherine and Tom. Suddenly, during the game Karen was engrossed in, the coffee which was given to me fell. The coffee was cold, but just to ensure there were no burns, I checked Karen's clothes. And right then I saw a painful bruise. "Catherine, how did she get this bruise?" Looking at Catherine, she was at a loss for words and looked shocked. However, Tom calmly adjusted the sleeve back.
It seems she bumped into something while playing. It's okay.
I'm fine now. So I decided to trust their words. Catherine took her daughter to the room to change, but didn't come back immediately. After a while, Tom went to check on them, and then all three returned to the living room. Mom, we have something to do soon and need to go out. Oh, I see. Sorry for dropping by suddenly. As I got up to leave, the family saw me off at the entrance. I patted Karen's head and said, "Let's play together again soon," and greeted Tom before reluctantly departing. At that time, I noticed Catherine's gloomy expression and was worried, but decided not to pry. Several weeks later, in the middle of the night, my cell phone suddenly rang. The name Catherine appeared on the screen. Sleepily answering, I unexpectedly heard Karen's crying voice. "Grandma, Mom isn't moving. What should I do?" "What? Karen, what happened? Where's Dad?" "He kicked Mom's stomach, then he left somewhere." I asked, "Can I talk to your mom?" But Karen only continued to cry. Sensing the urgency, I quickly told her, "Don't lock the front door." Then I immediately drove to Catherine's house. Arriving at the house, I rushed to the living room. Catherine was lying motionless and didn't respond to my voice. Karen kept crying next to her. Tom was nowhere to be seen. I quickly called an ambulance. As it arrived, I took Karen and headed to the hospital. An unsettling atmosphere lingered in the car, and anxiety mounted. Upon arriving at the hospital, all we could do was wait for Catherine's treatment to be completed. I prayed for Catherine's safety while stroking Karen's back. "Karen, please listen closely. Can you tell me what happened to Mom and Dad?" "Yes, I woke up because there were loud voices, and then I saw Mom and Dad were fighting. It seemed like Dad was angry at Mom." "And then? What happened?" "I wanted to protect Mom, so I went towards her. Then Dad got angry and tried to hit me like he always does. But Mom protected me." I was at a loss for words. The phrase, "like he always does," implied that there might have been abuse from Tom towards Catherine and Karen from before. When I asked Karen for more details, she nodded and continued to speak. According to Karen's explanation, Catherine was thrown around by Tom while protecting Karen, and when Catherine fell, Tom kicked her stomach violently. Tom quickly left the house, and because Catherine didn't move at all, Karen, who got scared, called me for help. "Dad told me, if you tell anyone that Dad hit you, you'll never see Mom again. Now that I've told Grandma, can I never see Mom again?" Knowing what was in her heart, I couldn't hold back tears. Karen, with her tiny body, had endured so much, desperately holding back all the hardships she's been through. "Karen, you've really been strong up until now. It must have been scary, but you don't have to worry about anything anymore." I never expected to see this unthinkable side from the usually gentle Tom. I would have never thought he could be violent towards Catherine and Karen. However, it didn't seem like Karen was lying, and considering the possibility that Tom had been regularly violent towards them, things added up considering Catherine's recent condition and Karen's bruises. Amidst all this, the doctor who had been treating Catherine came to us and began explaining her condition in detail. According to the doctor, Catherine had bleeding in her abdominal cavity, and there was a high risk of organ rupture. Therefore, emergency surgery was essential. The doctor bluntly said to us,
"It's a very dangerous situation. Please, be prepared."
Despite numerous calls trying to get Tom's consent for the surgery, I couldn't reach him. In the end, I filled out the consent form and went with the surgery, but I was trembling with anxiety and anger outside the operating room, clenching my fist tightly in rage. How dare he do this to my precious daughter? I will not forgive him. At that moment, I planned to corner Tom and make sure he was punished. Suddenly, I noticed Karen, who had fallen asleep leaning on me, was holding Catherine's mobile phone. When I checked its contents, I found astonishing evidence. After that, Catherine's surgery was successful, but due to the effects of the anesthesia, she didn't regain consciousness for a while, and her condition remained critical. I entrusted Karen to a trustworthy friend and kept praying by Catherine's bedside. Then, just before noon, Tom appeared in the hospital room, looking all calm.
Emily, I apologize. Despite receiving the message, I was busy with my work.
Huh? Work? There's no way. More importantly, what have you done to Catherine? Tom frowned at my angry tone, but he soon found words to defend himself.
I don't know what you're talking about, but Catherine fell on her own. I was at work at the time, and the details are unclear.
When I told him that I knew everything from my granddaughter's story, Tom laughed mockingly.
Please, stop suspecting me. Do you believe every word from your granddaughter who's just a child?
Still trying to run away, I see. My anger unabated, I muttered in a low voice. I can't believe you're trying to make such excuses. Was it really work, or were you spending time with your mistress? Tom frowned in displeasure and seemed ready to argue back.
Emily, stop joking like that. I was working late for my wife and my daughter, and yet you suspect me of such things?
Although Tom tried to deny it, I showed him the photos on Catherine's mobile phone. Are you still going to make excuses even after seeing this? In Catherine's phone were images providing proof of Tom's affair. Photos of him kissing a young woman and entering a hotel, and that woman was someone I had seen in town before.
Why do you have these?
There's more. There was also a diary in Catherine's phone.
What?
It seems like she noticed a change in your attitude towards her and Karen after your department changed, and hired a private investigator to investigate.
She never mentioned anything about that.
In Catherine's diary, it was written that when she confronted Tom about his affair 2 months ago, he raised his hand against her. But that wasn't all. Catherine's diary detailed how Tom's violence escalated day by day, eventually leading to an incident where Karen got injured. Furthermore, I learned that Catherine, not wanting to trouble me and fearing threats from Tom, couldn't talk to me about it. She had been suffering in loneliness, resolved to somehow regain custody, borrowed money, and had hired an investigator to gather evidence of Tom's affair. Her recent diary read as follows. I finally gathered evidence of Tom's affair. I'm going to demand for a divorce today. Judging from this diary, it seems that during a discussion about divorce between Catherine and Tom, Tom kicked Catherine in the stomach, leading to the current situation. When I conveyed this to Tom, he suddenly began to get agitated.
You're mistaken. This is a misunderstanding.
To this, I got really angry and I finally raised my voice. Excuse me? What exactly did I misunderstand? You cheated. You hurt my daughter and my granddaughter. And you still intend to settle this as if nothing happened? Although Tom continued to be agitated, he gestured as if to say,
Well, let's calm down for a moment. Emily, shouldn't we forget about this for everyone's sake? My work and family are important to me. If this gets out, I'll lose my job, and it may cause even more pain for Karen. Let's discuss this calmly, shall we?
What are you talking about? It's already too late.
What did you say?
I've informed your workplace about your affair, as well as the injuries you caused to Catherine and Karen, providing evidence as well. Not only evidence of infidelity, but Catherine had also recorded on her voice recorder when Tom raised his hand against her. And I compiled that audio file into an email and sent it to his workplace.
Do you not understand that doing such a thing will get me fired immediately? It will only make everyone miserable.
When Tom, trembling with anger, approached me, I calmly confronted him. The future division of the Health and Welfare Center supports mothers and children in difficult situations, right? What's wrong with consulting them about what truly happened? Tom lost his words in response to my question. Then his cell phone rang. Tom answered the call, muttered something while turning pale, and then, shaking with anger, spoke to me in a fierce tone.
I was yelled at by my boss. What are you going to do about it, you old hag?
His face distorted with rage. He began to lash out. I pushed Tom away. We've obtained a medical certificate for Catherine's severe injury this time, you know. We will also submit a damage report to the police, so bear that in mind.
What? Police? You old hag, you're...
Tom glared at me with a demonic expression, but at that moment, Catherine woke up and spoke in a raspy voice. Tom, I will raise Karen, so let's get a divorce. The moment she spoke, hospital staff who had heard the commotion came rushing over. I explained the whole situation and had them report him to the police. Tom was restrained and taken away by the police. After that, Catherine recovered and her divorce from Tom was finalized. She demanded compensation from Tom and his mistress, and he was arrested on suspicion of assault against Catherine and Karen. In addition to what I had exposed, Tom, who had already been under scrutiny for his work attitude and due to the whole upheaval, faced suspension at work. The trial is ongoing, and if he is sentenced to prison, he won't be spared from disciplinary action. Furthermore, I heard he was abandoned by his own family and friends. The woman he had an affair with, having her relationship with him, became public at work. Eventually had no choice but to quit her job. Afterwards, with the compensation she received, Catherine repaid her debts and returned to my house with Karen. Catherine began to show smiles little by little, and I am spending joyful days with Karen. From now on, looking forward to Karen's growth, I want to live a peaceful life.
I got fired.
With those words, my husband dropped his shoulders in disappointment. No, no, no. Isn't that the best development? There's still a chance of winning this battle. Watch. The unscrupulous bald-headed president. We'll win this on our own. My name is Sammy. The other day, when the microwave went ding, I instinctively said, yes, yes, and my daughter gave me a weird look, saying, Mom's talking to the microwave. I'm a 40-year-old who got weirded out. Oh well, with things like Alexa and Siri, it's not strange to talk to machines these days. It was embarrassing because it was unconscious. Well, compared to the incredibly embarrassing people I've met in the past, talking to the microwave is not a big deal. This is a story from about 15 years ago. I was working at a certain company. The company itself was small, but elite. However, it was a company that excelled in specialized tasks, such as creating programs to protect computer security. It had earned trust from major corporations, and its performance was decent. At that time, the internet was not as widespread as it is today, and there was still considerable room for development in areas like security. Hence, the company was reasonably expected to continue growing in the industry. It was during this time that I met my current husband, Simon, who was a colleague. We eventually got married. However, even before marrying him, I had been bothered by advances from the company president. I have to say, I was a cute child since childhood, well regarded even in the neighborhood. Especially since I didn't gain weight and grew up smoothly, I was often asked by magazine photographers to take snap photos in the streets. Being envied by everyone, I had the side effect of easily attracting troublesome men. The president was one of them. Thanks to that, I don't like my own face. Even if I just said good morning, the president evaluated it like this.
You're a good girl, always greeting me with a smile every day.
And he would proudly talk about it to other employees. At that time, the president was 48 years old. He was bald, and the remnants of his hair that remained were plastered onto his forehead. Despite that, he seemed satisfied, showing no intention of fixing it. He wasn't particularly pleasant, and he was arrogant towards disliked employees while being kind to those who brought benefits to the company or pretty girls. He had a somewhat autocratic nature, creating differences among employees, for better or worse. I couldn't help but feel a physiological discomfort from the president's actions. However, he was my superior. I had to get along with him somehow. But how do you deal with a man who mistakenly thinks you're relying on him just because you went to report work? The answer was unclear. So, I managed to avoid the president's favor in a relaxed manner, but when I announced my marriage to my husband, the president started persistently inviting me to meals. Although our workplace romance was kept secret, people who knew about my relationship with my husband knew. However, the fact that the president increased his attempts at this timing showed that he hadn't realized anything about my relationship with my husband. Until then, it was just things like feeling his gaze or hearing that he liked me from other employees. So, I had intended to handle it with grace, but it became troublesome when it escalated.
How about going to a private Italian restaurant? We can spend time without reservation, just the two of us. I said I would treat you last time, but you refused, saying you didn't have any money. I bought wine from your birth year this time. Let's drink it at my place. It won't cost you anything. Didn't you say you didn't like alcohol? I found a bar where they specialize in sweet cocktails. Let's go together. We can reserve a private room, and there's a spacious space in the back. Hey, when are you going to go out with me alone?
Even after repeatedly refusing all these invitations, the president didn't give up. He believed that I was aware of his feelings and was intentionally teasing him, calling me a little devil. Any invitation was too transparent, with an obvious intention to get me drunk and take me to a private room. It was impossible to consider it as part of work. If he suggested going to a crowded park in front of a police station and invited me to drink water while trying to lick salt, although I would hate it, considering it as part of work and attending wasn't completely out of the question. But, in the end, will I go? No. Did you catch me? He. Because he was so persistent, one day, I said, "Please give up on me. It's bothering me." Until then, I had avoided expressing my feelings like this because I was afraid that if I did, the president would realize that I was aware of his interest, making the situation more complicated. But on this day, the stress got to me, and my true feelings slipped out. The president, as expected, happily smiled and put his hand around my waist.
You were aware of my feelings all along, deliberately teasing me. You little devil.
His creepy touch gave me goosebumps, and without thinking, I pushed the president away, and just ran away. Originally, my husband had been worried about the president's actions, suggesting that I quit my job. However, I stubbornly stayed in this company because I wanted to see my husband working up close. My husband was the top technician in the company, and he is currently developing a new system that is expected to double our performance when completed. I wanted to continue watching my husband, who always works so hard. If I quit and went to the same company after job hunting, It would be unthinkable. So, despite enduring the creepy president, I wanted to stay. However, it seems like it's time to put an end to that. The next day, I submitted my resignation letter to the company, meaning the president. Since last night, I had already discussed everything with my husband, and he strongly advised me to resign. So, with a determined mindset, I confronted the president. However, the president did not accept it. He tried to retain me by offering various favorable conditions, such as raising my salary or giving me a higher position. If only he had said, "I'll resign, so you can stay here," I would have happily remained in this company.
What's causing you so much dissatisfaction? If you want, I can even promote you to be the president's wife.
Saying that, the president smirked. I couldn't fathom why that made me uncomfortable. I've told you many times, I'm already married. I'm fed up with being invited to meals or having your hands on my waist. Without thinking, I expressed my true feelings to the president, who responded with,
I see, it's his fault, huh?
"What?
Your true love is me, right? I understand that we never shared our feelings before, and you felt inferior in my position as the president. You got married, pulling away because of that."
No. That's not true at all.
No need to be embarrassed. I understand everything. I thought he was a pitiful scapegoat for you, and I've endured being kind to you despite being jealous just because you're his wife. But if that's the case, he's unnecessary.
Why is the conversation heading in this direction? I never saw you in that way from the beginning.
All right. I fully understand your feelings. Well, in that case, I'll accept your resignation. The future president's wife doesn't need to do the work of an ordinary employee. I'll let you enjoy a more comfortable life.
Saying that, the president pocketed my resignation letter and disappeared from the president's office. It's hopeless. The communication is unbelievably ineffective. What does he mean by blaming my husband? How did that bald guy interpret things? Oh, wait a minute. Isn't this surprisingly lucky for both me and my husband?
Just got married, and now I'm unemployed.
My husband smiled troubledly and said, "What's wrong?" To that, I replied with a smile, "Well then, congratulations.
Huh.
That system you were developing, it was meant to extract suitable customers for the company, right?
Yeah, but
If you're not there, the data won't be updated. There's no point in looking at old customers that haven't been updated for a long time.
the foundation is already there, and someone else can understand and execute the update in less than half a year, right?
Yeah, that's not it. Hey, how about using that half a year effectively and starting your own business?
Huh.
To my proposal, my husband looked surprised but ultimately burst into laughter while saying, "You're quite cunning." That's good. I can work with my husband again. My husband's actions from that point were swift. 30 days after being fired, as the president declared, we used our savings to start a business. During this time, my husband had been talking to the outstanding employees of the previous company.
If you want, how about joining our company?
Well, it was more like headhunting. The bald president, who couldn't even use a computer, was often unaware of the struggles on the front lines and would often impose impossible tasks. Thus, other employees said, "If there's any company where you, who can do the job better than anyone, will understand the side of the workers, it's yours." As a result, almost all employees decided to switch to my husband's company, leaving only the upper management, whom the president favored. If I had stayed in that company, I might have been among them. Furthermore, following my suggestion, my husband developed a new system, an upgraded version of the one built in the company. He leveraged his connections from the previous job to not only secure jobs, but also created 2 new security systems and sold them to other companies. Originally, in a field with few competitors, people tended to flock to companies that produced better products. The number of companies requesting work increased rapidly, and within 4 years of starting the business, my husband's company became the industry leader. With the company's performance on the rise, the employees were feeling elated. Until one day, that president suddenly visited our company. Unable to ignore him, my husband reluctantly guided the president to his workspace, doubling as the president's office. Worried, I also accompanied them.
What can I do for you?
As my husband asked, the president immediately bowed with tears and apologized.
I've been watching your actions for the past few years. I now realize that Sammy really hated me. I genuinely regret it.
He explained that the previous company was in financial trouble, short of staff, forcing excessive overtime on employees, and unable to pay overtime wages. If asked whether I wanted an apology, it didn't matter at this point. After all, my husband is clearly earning more now than when he was at the previous company, and he has increased the salaries of the employees. No matter what the president said, we're happy now, so it's fine. I had no interest in the president's apology, and it was just a waste of time.
If that's all you came for, could you leave? We're busy too.
In response to my husband's words, the president got off the sofa, sat on the floor right there, and pleaded.
Please. Come back to our company. With you, our performance should recover. Please help us.
The president bowed down, rubbing his forehead on the floor, but my husband quietly shook his head.
Since the day I was fired, I'm no longer an employee of your company. I have a responsibility to protect the employees of my own company. So, I can't go back to your company. Please do something. I beg you. If you resign as president and your company comes under ours, that's fine. Under. No, merge. I'm not sure what's best in this situation since it's my first time. Wait, are you asking me to resign as president? Of course. What you did to my wife in the past was an act that trampled on the morale of female employees. Nowadays, overworking is criticized by society. It's only natural.
While what happened to me is now considered unacceptable by society, at that time, it was quite a gray area. It was an era where it depended on the individual's interpretation. Even if someone claimed they were touched inappropriately, you'd receive excuses like no ulterior motive, just a stumble, overly conscious woman, or face defamation, denying the truth and eventually getting fired. However, the situation with overtime was different. Until then, ignoring labor laws and allowing excessive overtime was common. With changes in laws and a gradual shift in public perception towards long working hours being bad, the president's actions would be harshly punished if reported to the appropriate authorities. At first, the president kept repeating,
Isn't there any other option? Please spare me from resigning.
But realizing the gravity of his actions, he understood that remaining at the top of the company was impossible. The president stepped down from his position, and my husband absorbed and merged his company. All the employees were taken in, and the overtime pay that couldn't be paid was settled here. Since our company was flourishing, it actually turned out to be a relief. The president's company had low wages, so the overtime pay wasn't a significant amount. We won.
When you proposed that I should start a business when I became unemployed, I never thought we could expand the business enough to crush the president's company.
I believed in your ability.
Really? Aren't you just trying to flatter me and boost my ego?
No way, you caught me. While talking about such things as a couple, I sincerely felt relieved that everything went well. Later, it turned out that someone leaked the conversations in the president's office, which I never told anyone about. The embarrassing actions of the president, who used to flirt with me, became public. Since it's a small company, it didn't make it to the news on television, but it was reported in local newspapers, including the overtime issue. Apparently, more people read local papers than watched TV or read famous magazines. The president became a scorned figure in the local community, and playing president became a trend among kids. It was a surreal game where they persistently flirted with a pretended reluctant girl. If the president saw it, it would be too embarrassing, and he would probably dig a hole to bury himself. By the way, the president was divorced and had a middle school daughter. However, when this game became popular, it seemed that his daughter heard about her father's actions, and she returned home almost like running away. Well, for a sensitive teenage girl, having such a creepy father must be unpleasant. It's a case of reaping what you sow or self-inflicted misfortune. The president, who lost both the company and his daughter, couldn't find work in well-paying companies due to his inability to use a computer. Currently, he's employed as an office worker in a local factory, but he can't handle essential desk work. Therefore, he has become responsible for serving tea to the female president. He, who used to condescendingly order female tea servers with a loud "Hey, bring me some tea," is quite a downfall. The president himself probably never imagined a future where he would become a tea server. The employees who switched from the president's company to ours are laughing heartily at the president's dramatic fall from grace. There is no sympathy for him. On the other hand, my husband and I were blessed with 2 children. Our daughter is talkative, making fun of me when I bow my head during a call or respond to the microwave. Well, she's cheeky but cute. Our son is a year younger and seems to excel in computer-related matters like his father. Despite being still young, he creates small programs, so I think he has a promising future, unbiasedly speaking. It would be nice if he could take over the company. He, however, wants to become a YouTuber, work for Uber Eats, or be a pizza delivery guy. Wait, son, isn't there anything else? While being tossed around by the children every day, we enjoy our happy days. How did you find this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.